Hey, it's Eli K. Atlas, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing a little narration walkthrough of Simon Graves' Ace, page number 3, issue 1. And yeah, I've done a couple of videos on this already, this book, this pages, and this is going to be another one in that series. Yeah, make sure you check out Simon Graves and his work. He's really good. He's a really talented writer, and yeah, he hired me to do a couple of pages for this. And what's interesting about this was we kind of did them out of order. He had me do the pages that are after this series of 7 pages. He had me do the ones that happen after the first 7 first, and then we went back and did the 7. So that's a fun little fact about these. But onto this page itself, I skipped a little bit because I only remembered to cut my camera on a little bit halfway through the page, but we'll go over what we got so far. So the idea for these pages, the first 3-4 pages, it's Ace and his team. They're all fighter pilots, Tuskegee Airmen, and they are all flying this like one last run for fun before sunset. Without giving too much of the story away, they're kind of having a little good time. They're all driving and flying rather, and so I'm trying to capture with the colors, I'm trying to capture a certain kind of emotion, you know, kind of like it feels very warm, it feels very close, but it still has to look pretty cool. So I did half of the work like in the line art stage, so I tried to use really dynamic shots like inside of the cockpit like this. This is a shot that maybe you wouldn't think of at first. Looking right out of the window would kind of frame the visuals of what he's seeing with the grates, I guess, the frame of the window. I think that's the right term. And so we get a view of what he's looking at from inside of the cockpit, and I think it's pretty cool. And when we get to the colors, it allows me to do something like this. This is page 3 and this is panel 2. So we kind of get to play with some light and some shadows here because of the way the thing is framed. Everything in the foreground is a little bit darker than everything outside of the window, and that's just kind of a backlighting effect, but it ends up helping to frame the picture even better. And now we move on to the little planes themselves. These were fun. It was actually quite difficult finding certain angles for this plane. The P-51 Mustang, I believe, is the correct official term for it. It was actually a little bit difficult finding good references for this at certain angles because, you know, I guess most people wouldn't draw it, so they kind of take it from angles that are cool, but I needed it from like every angle. So I actually ended up finding like 2 diagrams online of this plane, which were really helpful because they allowed me to draw this plane at some different angles, like the back, a little bit under it, and I kind of got an idea for what the actual shape is, because it's one thing to just kind of follow a reference, but if you don't really understand the shape of the thing, it could look a little different from panel to panel, which is actually an issue that I felt like I had with the first couple of pages up until, I guess, this page and afterwards to about the next 4 pages. I think I really locked in on what the plane really looks like, but the first 1, 2, and 3 I felt like you know, it kind of changed because of the reference. So sometimes a wing might be a little long, or the cockpit might be a little long or something. So I was really happy to have found the references that I found. Now the background elements itself, we're keeping it a little bit simple. Again, it's supposed to be a sunset, so that's what we played with right here. And sunsets are my favorite thing. Even since I was a kid, I've always liked coloring sunsets. I had like, you know, a set of Crayola crayons, markers, whatever they are. Yeah, I had both actually. I had markers, crayons, and pencils. And I would always use like the orange to highlight things, so it always was that sunset look. So, you know, you kind of grow up with a certain aesthetic. I guess it kind of starts early, and I think I've kind of taken that into adulthood in a lot of ways. I still have, I guess, kind of the taste for the same kind of visuals, but now I have the ability to flesh them out a little bit better, I think. So I ended up leaving the background plain, even though we have the color itself, but I added the Clouds a bit later in Photoshop. Sai unfortunately doesn't have, at least the version I'm using, that they don't have a whole bunch of like texture brushes in the way that Photoshop has. So I end up adding those certain elements to really make it pop a little bit later down the line. Now we go from panel 2 to panel 1, and I color these out of order, out of chronological order. I just kind of do the panels that I think I can finish the fastest. That way I can focus on the panels with a lot of details at the end. That way I won't have wasted so much time just trying to hone in on details, and then I have a whole page to finish. I like to tackle the easiest panels, and then once that's done I can just focus on one long, one hard panel, and yeah, finish it off. So in certain panels I didn't actually draw the logo, the star logo on the sides of the ship by hand, and that's only because sometimes when you draw things and they're a certain size, the details will get lost a bit. And I knew that I had a good reference for the actual star that they used or had on some of the planes, so I just used a photo reference, kind of clipped it and put it into the picture itself, which is a technique I'm getting into a lot these days. It just speeds up the process when you don't have to do everything, and for a lot of people that's maybe considered cheating, but I realize that the pros have done this for a long time, especially reading like, you know, American comics, and even I think, you know, foreign comics do that too sometimes. They'll take a photo and then they'll incorporate it into the actual line art somehow. It was kind of something I put off for years, but as I'm getting busier and busier, and I see the usefulness of a technique like that. So this book itself takes place at, well, at least these intro scenes take place nearby around Mount Rainier. I'm not quite sure if I'm saying that correctly, but it's like Washington, I believe. Geography is not my strong suit, but I believe it is in Washington, yes. So I used some photo references for the background and things like that. And it's a pretty beautiful location. I ended up actually posting a little snippet of the book on Twitter, and the like state park or whatever it was from Washington, they actually liked the photo. They, you know, sent me a little promo advertisement thing about the mountain, but we had a little fun little engagement there. So I suppose in that way I did it justice, the location. Totally up to you guys, of course. So the background like this, even though the place is green, we have a sunset happening, so it's kind of important to keep it green, but I still want to incorporate it with the background and make sure everything goes smooth. So I ended up kind of making it a reddish, more like a brownish hue. And that pretty much concludes this particular video. You guys can check out the rest of the ones in the A series, where I color, I do the line art, things like that. And if you like this video, make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and share. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you, all of the support on all the social media sites that I am on, and on my YouTube page as well. Again, make sure you check out Simon Graves' work. I'll have all the links that you need, whether to buy this book or just to go and generally view his profile, in the description box below. And hopefully you guys got something out of this video. Thank you for watching. I will see you later.